Hi, it's Andrew with Homes Mortgage Lending, and today I'm going to go into some detail about how escrow setups work. There's a lot of confusion on this, so I get questions about it quite often. And unfortunately, a lot of loan officers I don't think understand the math, especially if they're an out-of-state loan officer. In Michigan, our property taxes are a little bit different than most states, so it can get a little bit confusing. So work with a local lender, and you won't run into issues. If you are in Michigan and looking for a lender that is going to take great care of you and understands this stuff, I'd be happy to assist. So let's take a look. So on the monthly escrow, all we're doing is collecting 1/12 of the monthly, or 1/12 of the yearly homeowners insurance premium and 1/12 of the yearly property taxes. So the yearly homeowners insurance premium dividing by 12 and tacking that onto the monthly payment, and the property taxes, adding all of the property taxes up, typically just summer and winter, dividing that by 12 and adding that to the monthly payment so that that money accrues every month you make a payment, and we can pay the taxes and homeowners insurance bills when they're due. So easy enough there. So let's take a look at an example. So let's say that you're buying a home and the homeowner's insurance premium is $1,500. The summer property taxes are $3,000 and the winter property taxes are $1,500. That's typical in Michigan that we'll have just a summer and a winter property tax. So that would put the monthly escrow at $500 a month. That's just adding all three of those items together and dividing by 12. So at closing for the homeowner's insurance, we're going to pay that $1,500 at close plus about 2 to 3 months worth of reserves. A question I get often is, why am I paying for the homeowner's insurance premium up front for the first year and then also you're collecting on a monthly basis? I feel like I'm getting double hit. It's because we're paying the homeowner's insurance in advance. So we need to have enough money in the escrow account a year from now when that homeowner's insurance renews so we can pay that. The property taxes is a little bit more confusing on the math. In most of Southeast Michigan, which is where I do most of my business, property taxes are paid in advance. So what that means is the seller is going to already have paid property taxes for part of the year that you've lived in the home. Almost every contract that I see, every purchase agreement states that the seller is going to receive back prorations from the buyer on a per day basis for property taxes paid in advance. So it doesn't have to be that way. We'll certainly want to check your purchase agreement or talk with your realtor when you're making an offer to see how that's going to be calculated. But it's like 99.99% of the time in Michigan where property taxes are paid in advance, the buyer is going to owe the seller back on a daily basis for that. I'll show you an example here shortly. So the way that the math works between what we need to collect for the escrow and for prorations due back to the seller is going to typically equal just over a year's worth of property taxes. So summer plus winter. So it doesn't really matter when you close. You're either going to pay more property taxes, more of the taxes into escrow or more of the taxes as prorations, but it's going to equal out to be just over a year. So we'll take a look here in just a moment, and then we're going to have some reserves as well. So let's say that you're buying a home and you're closing on May 30th. The first mortgage payment won't be due until July 1st. You'll skip your June payment. So the summer taxes are due July 1st in most municipalities in Michigan. So assuming that's the case here, we're going to owe that full $3,000 before we've collected any monthly escrow. So we need to, at closing, put that $3,000 into escrow. And then for the winter taxes, those are typically due December 1st in most municipalities. So we would need to collect 7/12 of the winter taxes, or $875. So you would pay your first payment July 1st. So July, August, September, October, and November before the winter tax bill is due. So that's 5 payments. And then we need to collect the other 7. And then 2 months reserves, that's again for the full year's property taxes. So the 4,500, 1,500 plus 3,000 divided by 12 is 375, taking 2 months of those for reserves to cushion the escrow account. So the total for the property taxes for escrow is $4,625 in this situation. Now, real quick, if you were to close in like August, that summer tax bill would have just been paid by the seller. So now we're going to collect way less money into your escrow account at closing, but you're going to owe way more to prorations and due back to the seller. So it's a wash. So looking at the prorations in this example, again, closing May 30th, you'll owe the seller back 1/12 of the summer tax bill. That's just for June because you're closing May 30th and the property taxes from their summer tax bill covered July 1st to June 30th. So you owe them $250 for the summer tax bill. And then the winter tax bill, you owe half of that. You owe June, July, August, September, October, and November that they paid the property taxes for winter while you own the home. So that's $1,000. $250 plus $750. So the total property taxes plus prorations comes out to $5,625. And now when we add everything together, so we've got that $4,625 for the escrow for taxes, $1,000 for the prorations for taxes. First year's homeowners insurance premium $1,500, homeowners insurance reserves $250, total $7,375. So if you remember back to the first slide, we had $1,500 for homeowners insurance, $1,500 for winter property taxes, $3,000 for summer. All that added together is $6,000. Once we add in reserves and the fact that you're skipping that first month's payment, so we need to collect a little more into escrow at closing, that's where we get to $7,375, $1,375 over what the first year's premium and 1 year's property taxes are. And that's pretty typical for most areas in Southeast Michigan, just slightly over 1 year's worth of taxes and homeowners insurance. So I hope this has been helpful. All my contact information is in the video description. So if you have questions, feel free to leave them in the comments or reach out, and always happy to help with your next home purchase if you would like to reach out to get things started. Thank you so much.